614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. My name is Elio Harmon, your host, and this is the number one podcast for startups here in Columbus, Ohio. And I have a very special guest, long time coming. This guy has been working the network. He and I have run into each other many, many times. He's a big supporter of 614 Startups, which I love. Not only a listener, but he attends events. And it's good that I finally have him on the show. I have my very special guest tonight, Evan Duignan of Alphamated. What's up, Evan?
What's going on, man? Hey, pleasure to have and see you and get on the podcast. I know it's been a long time coming. It's good to see you again. Great to connect.
Yeah, man, you're always grinding. Every time I see you, you have an update, and I'm sure this time around, that's going to be more of the same. But for folks who might not know you as well as I do, how did you get your start in entrepreneurship? Why did you want to become an entrepreneur?
So I got my start into entrepreneurship. When I was in high school, they provided a list to me of the top 10 paying careers within the general career field, and anesthesiology was the top. It was like 330,000 or something. But I ended up going, and I've always been into cars. I ended up going to Las Vegas, and I saw like a Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera. And it was like, it was like 275,000. I was like, how does anybody afford to eat? They're not telling me something. And formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. So I took it upon myself to kind of deep dive a little bit further into how real wealth is created. And I've learned that through leveraged assets, with entrepreneurship being one of the asset classes that can get you to that particular level. And honest, genuine interest in wanting to run my own business, have a lot of chips on my shoulder, just wanted to take it further, honestly.
Hey, man, well, at least you got provided a list, right? I think back in the day when I went to high school, you had to have your own ideas about what you wanted to do, and you had a guidance counselor who would help you. And the fact that it was early in your career when you made this transition from, hey, I don't necessarily need to go out and work for somebody to earn a lot of money. Entrepreneurship is an alternate career path. So was your first company Alphamated, or did you have some companies or entrepreneurial experiences before this one?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Well, I used to sell Reese's. Like, I used to just buy them and flip them to just like random people when I was growing up. I resold shoes online back in like 2010 or something like that, when LeBron's and Jordan retros and foam posits were really big. And then I ended up running a personal training business too as well, and helped quite a few people lose weight or either gain muscle. And then I started at Ohio State. My first like dabble in it was I created customized phone charger blocks for like your iPhone charger, because I didn't want to lose mine when I was out like within OSU's campus. So I created like a personal identification label that would wrap around your charger, so I can readily identify which one's mine. And so that was more or less my first dab at like really taking product development. Dibbled and dabbled in other things. I've failed in like a drop shipping supplement business, like all sorts of random like hustles, so to speak, too, just trying to get a sense of what sticks and what works. But then also I was coming at it from a selfish aspect, because it was a lot of like me trying to pursue things that I genuinely cared about without paying attention to the market. And the market, a lot of times, will dictate it for you, as opposed to the other way around. And that's more or less how I got into the general premise of where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. Side Hustle University teaches you a lot. And if you're truly an entrepreneur, there's never really the first one, right? There's always like all the stuff you tried before you decided to go all in on one idea. So the market must have been telling you something that caused you to start Alphamated.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a very common process for folks.
Yeah, so the market must have been telling you something to get started with Alphamated. So What problem are you solving with this company? Who do you solve it for, and how do you solve it?
So the problem right now is really it's a time allocation. Alphamated created a machine that automates the silverware rolling process in a napkin. Rolling silverware isn't tremendously sexy or a way to explain it to folks, but I tell people I don't sell rolled silverware because you can do that and have been able to do that for time and time again. Alphamated sells a more time efficient solution. So I sell time. So that's more or less how I got into it is being working in the industry for over a decade. It was a quality of life thing for myself, as well as other ones around me in order to produce actual real world solutions with articulable value that I can actually transfer over into a product that can actually benefit the industry truly. So that's more or less how it came about. And who I serve has grown, but restaurants are at the forefront. Actually, healthcare is a particular industry I'm finding myself in a lot more recently. Hotels, catering event planning facilities, cruise ships. The hospitality industry is a central focus with, I would say, healthcare being the other main market segment at this point.
Yeah, so you mentioned it's more than rolled silverware, but at the end of the day, the problem is rolled silverware, but you do it in a way that gives them time and efficiency. Let's talk about the restaurant industry first. Why is time so important? Why is efficiency so important in the restaurant world?
Well, what I've found is time is a more scarce resource than cash a lot of times in restaurant settings, when the general environment, particularly when you're serving. Because you have, I frame it to folks, you have a bunch of very warm leads who are ready to be upsold pretty easily via drinks, desserts, additional meals, etc. And you have a situation where you can't walk fast enough. You don't have enough arms. I used to joke. I wish I would when I used to serve. I used to wish I was an octopus so I could carry out 8 things and be more efficient. So it's really that, and the guest experience is heightened when you're able to tend to people quicker. I mean, I think you, me, everybody has always been out where service and the length of how long it takes to get something is one of the most important factors in your general perception of the establishment or restaurant or wherever you're dining or drinking at. So that's something that anything that you can do to really condense that time from desire for product to actual servicing for the product, whether that's another drink or additional meal or something, is something that people are always looking to act upon, so to speak.
Yeah, so it sounds like as a server, the issue was that silverware, right? You got to get silverware on the table. People need silverware to enjoy their meal. So the dishwashers are in the back washing the dishes. You know, fortunately, they got technology back there to help them do it a little bit quicker. It's called a dishwasher. But all of that clean silverware now moves to the front of the house, and the servers who are taking your order and bringing you your food are also now responsible for rolling that silverware. Whereas they could be more focused on customer experience rather than thinking about, oh my goodness, we're going to run out of silverware. I need to stop, roll silverware, and bring it out to the table. Is that a fair description of what the life of a server might be, whether it's fine dining or kind of a fast casual restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, I take it a step further. I would take it, you're trying to feed complete strangers who are hungry, and you're trying to get them to like you enough for them to tip you. And so you're essentially trying to do anything that sways that in your favor, so to speak, or stacks the cards in that deck for your hand, so to speak. Not necessarily in a selfish way, but because you have expectations and they have expectations of how things will go. So anything that you can do that's a positive or benefits that, they're all for, you know what I mean? And then it's a matter of like time management, efficiency, being able to build rapport and establishing a relationship, because it's really what it is too. You're giving someone food, which is a very close-knit relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you've described the problem from the server's perspective. You've also described the problem from the diner's perspective or the restaurant's guest's perspective. But ultimately, I'm assuming that your customer is the restaurant owner, or let's say it's dining services in a hospital. Ultimately, is the hospital that's your customer. What's the problem that you're solving for the hospital? Or what's their perspective when you're talking to them about this issue?
To speak up on that, though, I will say one of the big things and one of the visions and the mindsets that I had starting this company is there's always been a certain uh, a bridge or gap between owner, operator, and server. This product in particular benefits both parties, right? So you, on the server side, you take someone who is doing, quite frankly, a menial task and putting them either into higher value tasks or allowing them to go home and actually enjoy their life, which is their one benefit. And then the other side of the coin, you have boosted morale, but the main thing, honestly, being the labor cost of sitting there on hours on end doing a repetitive motion and task. Um, Anything that takes hours that can be condensed to minutes is normally beneficial for all parties involved, regardless of actually industry. If I could figure out a way to get from here to Los Angeles in 60 minutes as opposed to however long it takes now, it would be benefiting not only the airline, but also myself. And so it's an interesting, and it'll benefit the flight attendants too, because they don't have to deal with the customers for as long. So it's about looking at the ecosystem as a whole and how can we present something that benefits both parties and introducing real value. That's the big thing.
Hey there, 614 Startups community. We're thrilled to share some exciting news with you. This podcast is proudly supported by Loop, the game changers in return management. Not only are they revolutionizing e-commerce, but they're also on the lookout for talented individuals to join their dynamic team. Looking to be part of a company that values innovation and fosters a vibrant culture? Well, Loop is the place to be. Check out their open positions at loopreturns.com/careers. And here's the scoop. Loop has been recognized by Forbes as one of the next billion-dollar startups of 2023. Want to be part of a success story? Now's your chance. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Head over to loopreturns.com/careers and be part of something extraordinary. Loop, where innovation meets success. Apply now. This episode is brought to you by KJK. Tired of the billable hour? KJK has a solution. The KJK GC Advantage program offers businesses comprehensive legal services in the areas of employment, corporate services, real estate, trademark, intellectual property, and estate planning, all for a set monthly fee. KJK serves as their clients' partners in business, not just their lawyers. Along with cost certainty and predictability, the KJK GC Advantage program gives clients peace of mind, knowing their projects will be handled quickly and efficiently, maximizing the return on investment on their legal spend. So don't go it alone. Let KJK help. Learn more by visiting kjk.com. Okay, so what's the innovation? How does it, what does the restaurant owner get? How does it appear in their restaurant? And then how does it work? Like, what does it actually do? Describe that process.
So they receive a piece of equipment, right, that they put within their restaurant that's scoped out via their very tight real estate, because owner operators literally have a dollar or monetary value to each square foot in the restaurant or establishment, because it allows you to allocate, like, if I don't have a piece of equipment here, I can put more tables in, right? So they're always allocating for that. But what the product is you have your dishwasher at home that has your silverware that you put in after you're done eating your meal at home. And restaurants or other eating establishments have that, but they have it on an industrial size and a larger scope. So this silverware runs through a much larger dish tank in the back of the restaurant, and then you take that respective silverware. Then you take that respective silverware and take it over to the machine, and then you load it up into the actual clips for the machine. So you pull out the clip or the cartridge, and then you stack it. You stack each individual clip or cartridge, and then you take the pack of napkins, which comes from, say, Gordon Food Service or Cisco, and then you slide that into the machine. And then you take the bands, which previously come pre-cut in a box and which servers have to sit there and fiddle with, is now on a receipt paper roll, similar to a POS system, and you're allowed to plug that in the machine. Then you then type in how many rolls of silverware that you want, and then what combination, and then you press go, and then it sits in the background, and then it runs autonomously. So instead of having to sit there at a table and fiddle with the fork, the knife, and the bands, you now have a system, essentially, that takes that process off your hands, literally, and in the background, and now you can be cut via labor. You can be allocated towards tending towards customers in regards to selling more drinks, desserts, appetizers, etc. Or if you're bored in the industry, which if you're ever bored, you know that you're cleaning. So there's always a ton of other tasks that can make sense because, again, time is of the essence. So that is essentially how the product works. And what normally would take someone 100 rolled sets, about essentially an hour of their time, the machine takes 5 minutes to load that up. And then if loaded properly and ran smoothly, that condenses to 5 minutes. And then the machine runs in the background and then stacks up over 100 rolled sets of silverware. And then you could take that bundles and then distribute it out to the respective guests.
That's great. So, I mean, your background is not necessarily in engineering. So you had an idea. How do you go from this idea to an actual machine? Who helped you take it from an idea to an actual product? What was that process like for you?
I feel very passionate about this topic because a lot of people have general ideas on products they want to create, and I always impress upon people that I didn't have an engineering background or know how to develop a product, but I did not let that stop me, and that's a key point of it all. How I got into it is actually something that a lot of people could run with themselves on true like entrepreneurial advice. So my path was working in the industry for a while, dishwasher, server, etc., and then coming up with the general concept, literally sketches on the back of a napkin. Like it doesn't get any more plain or simple than that. And they were like rudimentary sketches at best, right? And then entrepreneurship is very interesting. You have to have a lot of confidence in some regards, but you also have to be balanced, the ability to be very humble too as well, and understand where your faults and where you're not the strongest suited for. Now I recognize immediately that engineering is going to be really difficult. So the short synopsis as this process to create this has taken years was I engaged with an engineering design firm and then called CDME, which is Center Design for Manufacturing Excellence, Ohio State. After partnering with Cameron Mitchell and then taking that engineering design firm work, created a patented rolling system, which has now been granted on the actual rolling process in and of itself. That process then was taken to Wasserstrom, which is one of the largest restaurant equipment distributors located here in Columbus, Ohio. And they saw the validity of the product. And then we established a partnership with them, raised additional capital, and then transferred over to MEP, which is a manufacturing extension partnership here in Ohio. And due to establishing relationships with them, ended up vetting quite a few folks and then engaging with Magnet up in Cleveland area in order to produce their respective design and take it further. And then once we had some bare bones, is this even achievable? Like, is the technology plausible? Is there a product to be made? Can we even produce it for a somewhat reasonable cost? I ended up then vetting hundreds of manufacturers across the country, but thankfully was able to keep it relatively close to myself in Dayton, Ohio, after getting introduced to Fastlane, thanks to Mary Miller and Shari Plimpton over there at SIFT. And then that engaged a partnership with PCU Automation. PCU Automation and I had established a relationship and ended up having a conversation due to their previous background and expertise, particularly in the automotive industry, where they create fluid fill equipment. So think how your car receives air conditioning. So think high volume and high repeatability, which is essentially a very synergistic relationship to how it is with rolling silver, high volume, high repeatability. Established a relationship and then proceeded to produce the actual unit and units that are out today. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So you admonish entrepreneurs not to let the lack of prior experience or a knowledge of a particular area of expertise necessarily stop them. But you also created a lot of partnerships. You dropped a lot of big names like
Yeah.
Cameron Mitchell or Wasserstrom. The other thing that usually stops people is money. So how did you get all of this
Mm-hmm.
done? Were you able to acquire funding early on to help you out, or was the idea so powerful that partners were willing to help you get it done?
Oh, it was a combination of both, honestly. I mean, when you're first getting into entrepreneurship, it's hustle by any means necessary, right? So there's that. Like if I were to paint another picture, it would be doing a disservice to how hard it really is, though, too. I always tell people, anybody but you or your potential customers can talk you out of starting entrepreneurship. Don't start. Like, it's just too hard to do. Like, you need to have conviction and commitment. There's that part. And then honestly, I was holding odd jobs. I worked at Rodizio Grill, Outback Steakhouse, like sold stuff on Facebook Marketplace, like did all sorts of stuff. And then ended up partnering with Cameron and then raising capital and investment side, and then doing multiple tranches in order to even get to this point. So it's been a whirlwind to say the least, too. And I was comfortable on having a piece of a watermelon as opposed to a whole grape, so to speak, and having an abundance mentality of if I bring strategic folks on that can lend the name, brand, industry expertise, relationships, connections, and help that regard, then it makes a lot of sense to keep going forward through. And then it's just a matter of perseverance and accepting longer tenures and timelines than most people are normally comfortable with.
Yeah, you mentioned a great analogy. I'd rather have a piece of a watermelon than an entire grape. So, how big is this market? I mean, I only imagine there are restaurants everywhere. Um, Not all of them necessarily give you silverware, right? So that's a market within a market. But describe this market for silverware rolling, and what's your business model? How do you make money?
The market is on an international level too, so I'll preface that. So, for instance, I just got off a call with a distributor in Canada, and I'm going to be selling machines in Canada. If you would have told me when I was first getting into this that I'd be shipping units to Canada, I don't know if I would have believed you. But the actual total addressable market, so you got to figure there's roughly about 2 million restaurants within within probably North and South America, like all combined, so to speak, with about a little over 1 million within North America. Now that makes up like McDonald's, like Starbucks, etc. too. So then you have a subsection of that. So realistically, I'm looking at 250,000 potential locations on maybe the high end for the United States, and then probably a million locations, a little bit more, and everything on an international level if I can make it to all the industrialized and modernized and commercialized countries, so to speak. So that's that portion. And then I look at other subsections. Healthcare is hard because some don't roll, some do, and everything. So it's very hard to get that data because it's not really data that's tracked, so to speak, too. So it's a lot of customer vetting. I hope to have a database of, I'm trying to have 10 billion, but I think realistically, I think it's going to be like within like probably hundreds of thousands of locations, if I had to guess. And then you also look at hotels, catering, event planning, cruise ships, which are probably in the range of also somewhere 10 to 100,000, with probably catering, event planning being on the lower end, probably sub 100,000. So it's a lot more of a complicated answer. So like roughly a million on the restaurant side. We're talking international, and then the other various subsectors are anywhere from hundreds of thousands to maybe, is more or less the addressable market.
So do you just sell the machine to distributors? Are you selling directly to your core customers, the restaurants? Who services them, and how do you deal with issues like that?
Yeah, so what I've found is there's dealer distributors which you can go through. So Washstrom obviously being the main one, but there's Edward Don, Trimark, Webstron, which is a huge web platform, which is huge, based in PA. Then you have also like the reps groups, which is sales reps that work off commission-only structure that'll pick up a product line and then sell it for you. And then they also have multiple product lines that they sell and upsell their current relationships within the hospitality establishments. The business model right now, subject to change due to the fluid nature of entrepreneurship, but essentially is selling them the piece of equipment. And then I do sell them the banding. So I make a little bit on each individual band that goes around rolled silverware. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but if I get to the sense of volume, then it makes a lot of sense. And then I am looking into establishing a potential flatware line just because it might be easier for folks to buy it and stuff like that. But I am working with like the top like 10 flatware brands in the world right now about what it would look like. And then also kind of understanding what SKUs make the most sense and which sell the most. And then I do think I'll get into the napkin refill business at some point. Torque is a huge company, and all those other folks make their money literally on the refill business too, and it's extremely profitable. I mean, they did that with hand sanitizers, et cetera, too. So, but that's currently the business model. I would say upselling the piece of equipment, and then the banding. I do think there will be a software component tied to it, as the machine is able to track cycle counts. So how many rolled sets of silverware the machine accomplished throughout a given set. And that can be helpful in forecasting guest count. So the restaurant can forecast what they can expect or what their history has been like, or how many or how little guests have been coming in and out the door and ordering food, which is a higher meal ticket than, say, drinks, so to speak, on average. So those are more or less the approaches right now, but selling the equipment and the banding is the main focal point. In regards to servicing the piece of equipment, that is something that I am having a very interesting time learning about. So, but I am thankful for the sense that the industry has thought this through with other pieces of equipment before. So there's a trade association called SFESA, and what it essentially is this a vetted service provider network that's based off a region, and it's all over the country. And so you have vetted service providers anywhere from 2 to like over a dozen. They're able to come service the piece of equipment. And then you have essentially tiered pricing. So you have immediately, you have in a little bit, like say in 24 hours or 48 hours, you have in a week, and then like in a month or something like that. And it's all like different structures too. So essentially piggybacking off the infrastructure of Cefesso is a very common route for a lot of manufacturers. I know Hobart and ITW being a huge conglomerate with, I mean, north of 50 billion in revenue, I think, have their own internal service network. But every other manufacturer essentially has the trade association and service networks that they work off of. So whenever a pizza oven goes down or something like that, you can assure that probably Cefesso or anything like that is, or one of the service providers is involved in some regard. Now, there's other organizations, associations, but I'm trying to do the 80-20 principle right now, not spread myself too thin and focus on the 800-pound gorillas in the room right now.
Yeah, and focusing on that maybe too early could be a obstacle to scaling, right? Because how can you go to South America and think about service contracts, yeah, all across the world and trying to manage things
Oh
that way?
yeah,
Yeah.
no. I mean, yeah. If I like, for instance, Canada is a perfect example. Talking with them today, uh, one of the things that I impress upon people when they're first getting into entrepreneurship is transparency is a beautiful thing, and it can really actually open some phenomenal doors for you. When you have the confidence to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, and you mean that with genuine intention and genuine, like, from yourself and no other place without any ulterior motive, so to speak, you have a lot of adoption that comes with that. And so I was talking to the group in Canada. I was like, I really don't know. I would assume it's similar to the United States or America, but it probably is much different in some regards. Service networks, because I don't want the machine to break down and then have it look bad on you guys, since this is essentially an extension of one another. Would you be able to introduce me to folks that could be able to walk me through what the Canadian market looks like? Because although I have my assumptions or predispositions on the U.S., I don't want to essentially put my foot in my mouth and overstep a lane or a boundary without fully understanding. I don't like to speak out of turn and speak on things that I don't have a full awareness on too. It just like lacks credibility. And when I do that, it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. It's on character, I guess.
This episode is brought to you by Rev1. Rev1's mission is to help entrepreneurs build great companies. As you navigate the waters of business entrepreneurship, you don't have to go it alone. A strategic partnership with Rev1 connects innovators to the talent, customers, space, and funding you need when you need it. Get started with Rev1 Startup Studio by visiting rev1ventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is rev1ventures.com. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in InsurTechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side.
Yeah, man, that comes from probably experience and learning some lessons along the way in your entrepreneurship journey, but also wisdom, right? And that's a very wise position to take. So you said one thing that you didn't want entrepreneurs to walk away with as they listen to this podcast is that somehow implying, because we're telling a story in 45 minutes or less, that it's been easy. So what has been your biggest challenge so far? And then what do you think your biggest success has been so far?
I think identity crisis and molding myself into the individual that is needed to take it where I need to become or need to get to, so to speak. So, like, I read this speech, or heard this speech one day. It was like, if you got knocked out and someone told you you woke up out of consciousness, and someone told you you're a Marine, do you think you'd act differently than if you um, were woke up and told you're like a dancer, so to speak? It's basically acting in congruency with the person that you want to become and having real belief. And over time, I've learned confidence is an earned trait. So the biggest challenge, I'd say, is the maintaining and instilling with real conviction the belief to always take it further and farther, and really be able to create the version of myself that's needed to reach the audacious goals that I put in front of myself. Everything else is mechanical and mindset, but once you start from foundational level, you pretty much are able to handle the like systematic approach. And the advice is, I just didn't quit too, and it's really hard to bet against a guy who doesn't give up.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And so, listen, trying to become the best version of myself is damn near making me go crazy, because that person is there, but then there's some other stuff keeping you from being that person, mentally, and maybe some external validation seeking a little bit, trying to validate who you are rather than that being
Mm-hmm.
coming from an
Yeah,
internal
yeah.
locus of control.
It's a mental. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very,
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
brutal and
And
tough mental game.
yeah, and then honestly, I'd say the greatest success so far is my dad has this saying: "Ideas are praised, execution is worshipped." And the fact that I actually executed upon something that when I was a dishwasher, I took sketches back of a napkin to here is, to actually be able to say that I created a patented product that actually does the process. It's incredible, honestly. And the years that it's taken, honestly, is nothing short of ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, man, and proving to yourself that you can do something is another way of shaping that identity. So, I'll end with this final question, and then if you have a final word for the audience, you're welcome to give that. But what's next for you and Alphamated, and how can the 614 Startups community support you?
So I've been traveling a lot. I've been in Columbus 2 days in the last month, and travel is a very interesting uh, experience. Always, they say that one of the best ways to modify behavior is to change your environment. So my next for Alphamated is really expanding across the country. I have deep goals and ambitions and aspirations to take this even farther, and then like be able to talk and point to 614 startups like this was Columbus bred and based, like for real, like go check this out, like, and basically have a paper trail on like the process of like everything that'll come past this too as well. It's really just kind of expanding and trying to take it further and farther, and just improve on all the metrics and create an even better product. We're going through reiteration to try and make it a better product all the time. So I think that's really the two main focal points, and just maintaining a level head, not making quick decisions that have long-term implications, but also kind of, I don't know, probably taking it a little bit more easy on myself if I'm being real honest. Um, uh, but a piece of advice I'd probably like to leave with people is I cannot state how thankful I am that I didn't give up. I remember like first hearing about like 614 startups with Elio like years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. And this was before the partnerships, before I was talking in these restaurant groups, before I even had a product, before investment capital, before I even had a route. And I implore people always to look at success in long-year tenures. Entrepreneurship is not easy. But if you're successful with entrepreneurship one time, you're essentially creating a legacy in which you and pretty much everyone around you, if you play your cards right, can be taken care of. So don't do a disservice to that, because that's really one of the big things that America was built on, is the people that are crazy enough to think that they can change the world, and them and everybody around themselves are the people that normally do it. So, like Ed Milet says, don't be afraid to be the one, so to speak. And so, and then make sure you have a really solid relationship with yourself. That'd probably be the second one, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, incredible advice, Evan. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, man. You're welcome back anytime you want to share something with the community. But I do have a final word, and you've dropped so many gems here today. I'd rather have a piece of a watermelon than a whole grape. Your dad saying about ideas are praised, but execution is worshipped.
Execution is
And
worship.
believing in yourself and never quitting, man. And all of those things I'm putting together right now for my final word. My final word is this, guys: if you are in the valley of despair, don't worry, you're not alone. Just because I'm smiling, it doesn't mean that I'm not there with you, but hold on. Like Evan said, keep doing the work, be transparent. If you don't know something, ask for help. And that's the best way that you're going to get to your vision. Don't let anybody talk you out of it, especially yourself. All right, folks, this has been another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. My name is Elio Harmon, your host. Until next time, peace.
That's a wrap, folks. You can find this and all our episodes on our website, 614startups.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. Don't forget to subscribe and write a review. If you'd like updates sent directly to your inbox, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter on the website. To engage in the 614 Startups community, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 614 Startups on all platforms, and join the conversation. For sponsorship opportunities and collaborations, email us at info@614startups.com.